All right, we're going to get started. I'm going to turn things over to Sara Nicholas. She's our policy director here at Pasa Sustainable Agriculture, and she will get our program started today.
Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this blustery Friday noon hour. I don't know if this is true where you are. The wind is just howling outside, so I hope our connections all hold. Welcome to today's Pasa listening session entitled What's Next for Industrial Hemp? Again, I'm Sara Nicholas with Pasa. We have a great and fairly large lineup of speakers today. Each of them will help us frame current issues with hemp in Pennsylvania from their own unique perspectives. I want to remind everyone that this is a listening session, admittedly a little ironic since we won't actually be able to hear your voice, but we welcome your questions, which you can put in the chat section throughout the discussion. And we'll get to those after the speakers have given us their remarks and hopefully have a good exchange. I hope to leave at least half the time for your questions today. And for those questions we can't get to, we'll follow up with the emails. Today, we'll hear perspectives from the State Department of Agriculture's Marketing Division, from a hemp seed company, from a hemp entrepreneur who has started multiple companies, from a forestry consultant interested in growing hemp for local businesses, and from a hemp farmer who is also the owner of a restaurant and a general store. And we have good geographic distribution with our speakers as well. First, a few very quick policy comments. This isn't really a policy discussion today, but I thought I would raise a few things that have happened recently. This week is actually the week that the federal government finalized the federal rule on hemp with several key revisions. I think we're going to drop that link into the chat so you all have that. I'm sure many of you have already seen it. The big change or non-change is there was no change in the regulatory THC level from 0.3%, which is disappointing to some who wanted to see it raised to 1%. But the number of days between testing and required harvest of hemp was expanded from 15 to 30 days, giving producers more time and flexibility to harvest their crops. At the state level, there's an updated state hemp final rulemaking in final draft that is going through that regulatory process and making its way through the various government hoops and should be published fairly soon. Finally, today's discussion is not really designed as an exhaustive presentation on the regulatory status of hemp or the many points of contention. It's really an opportunity for those working in the business to share their perspectives on the practical state of hemp in Pennsylvania, where we are now, where we need to be, and how we can work together to make hemp a robust crop and value-added material that benefits Pennsylvania businesses and growers. Given the many uses and varieties of hemp, we decided to focus today primarily on industrial hemp and not on the CBD issues. And given that hemp was a mature industry in Pennsylvania for hundreds of years and then abruptly made illegal by federal regulation in 1938 and only recently revived in the last 3 or 4 years, it's understandably going through a few growing pains as it catches up with the era of modern agriculture. Our panelists are going to give you a quick framing, keeping to about 5 minutes of their insights, just to make sure that we have time for your questions. With that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Phil Stober is Division Chief for Economic Development at the Department of Agriculture in Pennsylvania in the Division of Marketing. Take it away, Phil.
Great, thank you very much, Sara. Welcome everyone to my living room. I'm so glad you could join us today. And so what I'm going to do real quickly is just kind of give a broad overview of the perspective of my department, which I'm the Division Chief for Economic Development, and economic development being the operative words. And also I'm the director of the Agricultural Business Development Center, which is, basically was created on the Farm Bill in 2018, just so farmers, to help farmers develop more economic opportunities for themselves. And of course, within the department, we see hemp as being one of those opportunities. So just very briefly, kind of top line, what I've been doing since I've been on the job is working with others, with Dr. Ron Kander and the Hemp Steering Committee. So I just kind of go through my list that I put down here before we started today, is to build out a hemp fiber economic processing model. You know, just to basically how much it costs to put seed in the ground, all the way through to harvest, all the way through to some end uses. And we're trying to put some dollar values into that so that we have a pretty good understanding for farmers getting into the business, for people who want to use hemp for manufacturing purposes, all the way through that production lane to see where the dollars can be made and where, you know, just have to be aware of what that landscape is. We want to accelerate the acquisition and placement of hemp decortication facilities in the Commonwealth. There's not enough of that right now, so we're trying to do what we can within our purview to bring in that equipment into the state. We're working with Penn State, and I know that Alyssa Collins is on this session today, on formalizing a formal hemp classification system, because in all of our research that I've done when I was on board, is that was, you know, two of the most important factors is a hemp classification system. So farmers kind of know what kind of cultivar they're growing and what it might turn into at the other end. And so that's really important. And again, the decortication equipment to once it comes out of the field, how it begins to be processed. We want to focus on the messaging and the educating of our legislators so they have a broad understanding of kind of what hemp represents across the board. Obviously, all of us on the call know that the CBD oils was sort of that got out of the gate first. But now we don't want to conflate industrial hemp with the CBD oils. So it's an educational process that people just need to understand on, you know, the THC in it, how it has nothing to do with what we're going to do on the industrial side. Let's see, creating a certified weed-free forage and straw program. We're working on that with the Department of Plant Industries, of which hemp growers might be able to benefit from that as we ramp that program up. And then working with farmers, as I said, to generate more acres, more dollars per acre in their crop rotations and help them diversify what they grow on the commodity side. So in, I think that was 5 minutes or less. That's kind of what my part of the department is doing. And I look forward to any questions anyone might have. I'd be happy to answer those via, I guess, Sara through the chat program. So that's it. If anybody, hopefully, Sara, you're going to put up our contact information maybe towards the end of the program. And if my email address and our telephone number, feel free to reach out to me if you have questions or comments or suggestions on what we are doing and how we might be able to do it better. So we're here to serve and help and work with all of you to make it better. Thanks.
Thank you, Phil. That was great. It's impressive to condense your work into 5 minutes, and I apologize to everyone on that note. Next, we have Sara Mitchell, who is a industrial hemp specialist and horticulturist with King's Agriseeds in Lancaster. And my understanding is that Sara will be talking to us through her phone line. There's a technical glitch with her camera. So, Sara.
All right, I'm terribly sorry. I even put on a nice blouse, hoping that that I would be impressive for everybody. So I apologize. I travel as part of my job, and I hear claims about seed being variable or not reliable, or hemp seed having lots of males, or poor germination. And as we go forward, we have to remember where this industry has been for such a long time, and that has been on the fringes, and people have been breeding and supplying seed from person to person. So there has been variability, but as we go forward, the breeding has really improved. And so I want to just really proclaim to you that when you work with a good seed supplier who has certified seed, you've eliminated so much risk. So I just wanted to explain what certified seed is. And lots of companies have it, not just King's Agriseeds, but lots of companies have AOSCA certified seed, but there are a lot of companies that don't. So AOSCA, the letters stand for Association of Official Seed Certifying Agencies. And it's a global organization, actually. And the intention here is to preserve genetic purity. Breeders have worked for many years and put in a lot of effort into preserving genetics, and they deserve to be rewarded. The certified seeds are produced under strict requirements, the seed itself, and some of those requirements pertain to the land use requirements, the planting of the right kind of stock to grow the seeds, field inspections, seed labeling is really important. And then there are other standards that are tested only through lab analysis. So AOSCA seed is really a protection for the grower. What you ordered is really in the bag. And the risk of growing non-certified seed is that the grower takes on all of the risk. If you buy non-certified seed, you risk getting low quality. Non-certified hemp will be likely to be poor in performance. We all heard the stories in 2019 about the variability of CBD seed up and down and lots of males. You might have low stand or poor uniformity overall, and all of that means you'll get a lower than expected yield. There might also be a pretty healthy percentage or unhealthy percentage of weed seeds and male plants, all of which leads to more work for the grower. And even though there might be a compliant COA with the variety that you purchased, the seed in the bag could be really a genetic soup. And the grower is taking on the risk of growing a non-compliant hemp without any recourse. So when you work with a good seed company and a certified seed source, that is a protection for you. And some of the questions that you could ask is, if I do have a problem, will you come and visit my field and help me troubleshoot this? Because oftentimes the problem is not with the seed, it is with the cultural conditions, and we can help you with that. Or how many years has this variety been in the marketplace? That's very important for the grain and fiber hemp. And do you have this certified seed tags to show what is the germination, what is the percentage of weed seeds, and when is the date of testing? So good seed suppliers are not threatened by those kinds of questions. So choose your seed source wisely, and then of course you can rely on them to help you choose the right variety for your situation.
Okay, thank you very much, Sara. I appreciate it. Our next speaker is Josh Liedecker, owner of Susquehanna Mills and several other hemp manufacturing companies, who specializes in hemp seed oil, flour, and grains. Take it away.
Hey everybody, it's Josh here. I guess I've been at a bunch of these events, and I'm honored to be a part of this again this year and kind of say a few words of what I think is where we're at in the whole hemp arena here and what's needed in Pennsylvania. So we are primarily an oilseed processing business with Susquehanna Mills. We formed Susquehanna Hemp Company in 2018, but we were growing hemp in 2017. We were actually one of the first permit holders here in Pennsylvania. And primarily we were engaged to be able to add another rotational crop for farmers to better serve area farmers, being able to provide them with some diversity in their crop rotations and try to just add profitability to everyone's operation. So our goal here from our perspective is to become an aggregation point for oilseed grain production here in Pennsylvania, and hopefully develop markets for the oil and the meal products, which we have been pretty heavily working towards feed applications. I think the way to kind of scale hemp production in Pennsylvania is to get a wide adoption of the protein component that's left over from the meal or left over from the processing into animal feeds, and try to find some valued end results from that, like hemp fortified eggs. Like there's a group in Lancaster that's currently producing a hemp fortified egg product. And that's kind of what we're engaged in. And I see some major challenges in both the acceptance and the approval of hemp as a feed ingredient that we're trying to work with several organizations now to get that addressed, have it be an approved feed ingredient for commercial feeds that would end up with meat or egg products or dairy products that would be resulting from the inclusion of that feed. I believe that is the fastest way for us to get adoption of hemp as a main crop in all rotations on all Pennsylvania farms here in the near future. So that's what we've been working on. We're working on a couple of feed trials with some universities. We're doing some feed trials on a private farm in State College with one of my partners there. And it's exciting work. It's exciting to see the difference. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some effort, patience. Patience is tough. I'm not a patient person. So we've been in this for 3 years. I don't know why it hasn't been developed yet, but we're working on trying to improve that the best we can. In addition to those markets, we are also trying to work on some additional food applications for the seeds, the resulting press cake milled into flour. We've been engaged with a couple of manufacturers that are interested in using the hemp meal as an ingredient moving forward. Also, we are planning as part of our future expansion here at Susquehanna Mills to add a dehauling line into our facility so that we can actually produce hemp hearts, both for the snack food industry, ingredient industry, and then conceptually, I'd like to process hemp hearts into oil. I think I could produce a much higher quality meal and a much higher quality oil if the hulls are taken away, first of all. So I'm anxious to hear what questions may occur. It's an interesting time in Pennsylvania.
Thank you, Josh. The entrepreneurial energy behind this industry is kind of amazing. Our next speaker is Andrea Barrage, who is the owner and principal of Ironwood Forestry. She does consulting and works in the hemp arena as well as with agroforestry and crops like elderberries, and is interested in growing, harvesting, and the use of hemp in local products. Andrea.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, so I'm a consulting forester. I work primarily in central Pennsylvania, but also south central Pennsylvania around tree crop systems and agroforestry designs, looking to continue to develop the conservation economy. And a few years ago, started to realize that a lot of the limiting factor in tree crops of medicinal products, nuts, fruits, is actually the processing. That we don't have these hubs where people can bring their bitternut hickories, bring their hazelnuts. So we started looking at oil presses. We started a cooperative and we got an oil press. So the same kern craft that's able to make hickory oil, pecan oil, it's the same machinery that's capable of making hemp oil. And finding that there's much more overlay in the processing equipment and looking at these holistic systems designs as we're integrating tree crops into these systems, integrating hemp grain, hemp fiber into the alley cropping systems as well. So I've been really excited to be working closely with one of Josh's primary partners up here in State College area, who's a hemp farmer, and he's working on an industrial scale. Traditional corn and soybean farmer. And we started to team up a little bit, and I wrote him a grant through the Pennsylvania Farmers Union to construct the hemp truck, which is on-farm hemp seed cleaning and drying for green products. So that was funded through Pennsylvania Department of Agriculture Specialty Crop Block Grant last year, and we're looking to get that rolling. I think that there's tremendous opportunities for carbon offsets developing a carbon negative economy. So I'm looking at the intersection between hemp fiber products, hemp grain products, and restoration ecology opportunities. So one of the projects that I was working on is prototyping a biodegradable plastic tree tube, basically a tree guard integrating hemp herds with oyster mushroom mycelium, growing the bio composites. There's tremendous opportunity. We went and visited the biofill fibers facility a few weeks ago, decortication facility in Phoenixville, and integrating hemp fiber products into conservation economy. There's tremendous opportunities, as well as a lot of these agroforestry systems. I'm integrating natural dyes and bio-based inks into the systems as cash crop opportunities, being able to integrate that with hemp fiber. And we're prototyping next week. As far as I know, nobody has been doing any biochar with hemp byproduct materials yet. Maybe somebody is, but we're going to have our friend Gary Gilmore come out, and he's a inventor, machinist, similar to Josh's business partner, one of his partners, Herb. And we're bringing these guys together. We're going to make some hemp biochar off of some hemp waste materials, and then hopefully get Gary's gasification unit in the back of his truck running straight off of hemp pellets. So riding around the truck, running off of pellets is terribly exciting to me. I think that there's a lot of opportunities as we think about the scalability of what we're working with. I think we're looking for Pennsylvania to really have those investments in what Josh is talking about, a dehauling line, so we don't have to send our grain to North Dakota to get processed to come back, be able to do this in-house. And then from that scalability perspective, also in this aggregation model, how do people like me who are maybe more in the cottage industry, cottage farming, smaller scale ag, how do we plug in, fit together in this transition from industrial scale processing into niche market product development? Yeah, so we're going to be launching this hemp truck in the next year, and I'm also doing some community-based asset mapping, supply and demand side, and I think working to continue to develop processing hubs around these mapping analytics and finding hubs where people can process both tree crops and specialty crops such as hemp.
Thank you. That was a lot going on. I hope folks are going to circle back to you both on the role of cooperatives and kind of lessons learned from other related industries, which you seem to have picked up on and be using. Our last panelist is Eric Titus White. Eric is a hemp grower located in Stroudsburg, PA. He is the rural director for Pennsylvania Altogether Now. Eric.
How you doing? Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Always love the Pasa events. I am sitting in for Cameron McIntosh, who actually runs the Hemp Coalition for Altogether Now. I'm the director of rural projects. We have some titles that we're working on right now, but the main point that we wanted to get across was that at Altogether Now, led by Judy Wicks, we are pushing for a revolution in values via local self-reliance. And we believe that hemp is a major player and a major part of our sustainable future. So we urge anybody in Pennsylvania that is interested in hemp, either growing hemp, processing hemp, or hemp end uses, to check out the altogetherNowPA.org website and see what we're up to. We've done a bunch of work trying to pull farmers, processors, end users together so that we can build this industry. It is an emerging industry, and everybody understands that what comes first, the chicken or the egg kind of deal. And we realize that without farmers, you can't have end users, and without end users, you can't have farmers and obviously processors. So we have to build everything all at once, or you just have to have more Josh Liedeckers. So, because he's a one-man show out there and doing a great job. But So the idea for myself, I started a farm in Delaware Water Gap. We're right on the border of New Jersey here. It's 45-acre hemp farm. Got me into the business of farming. I was focused on hemp. My dad has a cannabis company, and the next great thing to do. So I left my business in Iraq and came here, bought a farm, and got deeply immersed in farming, and I loved it. But I saw that, again, no processors, no end uses, and yeah, difficult to be a farmer when you don't have those things. So I started growing produce as well. And it's become, what we refer to as a gateway crop, because hemp as, just a foot in the door turned me on to, all the many joys of farming. Last year was a wild time to become a farmer, but I made it. We've all, powered through. And I'm really, I've just really enjoyed meeting everybody. It's a wonderful community surrounded by hemp in Pennsylvania, and Pasa and all together now. And there's a bunch of other organizations out there that are doing a great job of creating this community, which is what it's going to need to survive. So again, I appreciate all these opportunities to reach out to the community and get, build the networks. So if you're interested again in hemp, please check out the All Together Now website. You can sign up to be a part of the Hemp Coalition. And what we're doing right now, and what Cameron is actually doing right now, which is why he's not able to be on the meeting, is meeting with Judy to start developing some hemp projects for Pennsylvania. So these will be long-term projects that are focused on building up hemp and making it an industry that hopefully doesn't fail, because it's on shaky ground right now. But we need as many people as we can to get involved. We need great, legislation and more events like this to just spread the good word. So if there's any questions, happy to take them, and I appreciate being here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric. Eric's calling us from his beautiful barn, and it's just nice to sort of reconnect to the world of agriculture and not just Zoom. At this point, I have to say kudos to our panelists. You've been uncharacteristically disciplined in keeping to your time for Pasa panelists. I won't say anything about hemp as an industry, but I really appreciate it. We have so much expertise here today, so many things going on. So I'm going to encourage you again to put questions in the Q&A, and I will start to launch some of those at folks. Keep the questions coming. I want to give Phil a quick moment to give us a heads up on a next grant round that he's put in the chat, just so everybody is aware. We'll start with that.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. Yeah, so the next round of the specialty block grant is on or around May 1st. So everyone just keep in mind that's for, hemp-related projects. So please keep that in mind, because there have been some good ones that have come in, and we're not going to be able to fund everyone who came in this time probably, but that money is going to roll over. So if there are some projects that you're working on, you're about to put it in, just keep May 1st and keep your eyes peeled on the PA Bulletin for that announcement.
Thank you, Phil. We have a question from Charmaine. I'm applying for a permit and want to know where to seek cultivars that won't be hot for grain or fiber. Thanks. I'm going to pitch that first to Sarah Mitchell.
Well, Charmaine, I think you wrote to me just the other day, and I've been on the road, so I have to get back to you. But King's Agriseeds does have grain and fiber hemp. And they are characteristically do not go hot. However, that being said, on occasion, for whatever reason, they do go hot. But for the most part, the varieties that we are carrying are not recent varieties. They've been in the marketplace for about 10 years. In Canada, for example, the rules are different. And if a grain and fiber hemp tests below the 0.3 total THC level for 3 years running, that variety is deemed safe and is no longer tested. So that saves the farmer a lot of money in testing. So I hope that the US is looking at those kinds of regulations, because what's good in Canada should be good in the United States as well. And we carry those kinds of varieties. So Charmaine, that is where you can give me a call, or I will call you.
Thanks, Sarah. I wanted to open up that same question to some of the other panelists. Maybe you have found, developed some thoughts on this or found some resources as well. Okay. I guess we will go on to the next question.
I mean, I was trying to get on.
Josh.
Yeah, I've grown 10 different varieties, I think, over the last, since 2007.
Oh, I think you put yourself, there you go.
And they've performed very, very well. The most important question, I think, is more what the end result is. A lot of times people think about, you know, what is the goal? Is it fiber, or is it grain, or is it CBD, or whatever it is? There are genetics that are better suited for certain things. So for instance, if I was going to grow a grain crop, for instance, they have a genetic called CRX1, which is a top performer here in central Pennsylvania. And in terms of like its stature, it's a short stature, it's easy to harvest, it's very uniform. The male to female ratio is I guess adequate. I'm not sure how they improve that. You don't need that many males to do pollination, but there's lots of people that are selling seed now, and I think just make sure you ask the proper questions, like what is the end goal, and is this particular genetic going to fit those goals?
Great, thank you. Anyone else thoughts on that?
Yeah, I had kind of a similar experience. I've grown CBD just like Josh, and fiber. We got all of our seed from France, and we had 5 different cultivars. Very difficult to see the differences within the cultivars by sight, you know, by vision. You just go down and they kind of all look the same until you get up close. You know, the ability to tell the difference is very difficult. There was a question that I saw. It is windy. There was a question that I saw about feminized seed for fiber and grain. That is not necessary to have feminized seed. Your seed, like Josh was saying, if you are growing a grain variety, you should just have hopefully enough males in there to pollinate the females. Otherwise, they're just taking up space. So less is more, but not too little. So
great. Thank you for answering both of those. The next question is for Josh. Is your mill set up as a farmer cooperative?
It's not currently. I don't know how to do that. So if anybody wants to help me do that, I would be more than happy to figure that out. Again, we're pushing towards a massive expansion where we're going to be putting in about $1 million worth of hemp specific grain processing equipment, in addition to the $3 million of oilseed stuff that we're putting in. So that's sort of an interesting way, if I could come up with a creative solution to make those pieces part of a cooperative and then really kind of crowd fund it. That's pretty cool. I mean, really truly serve the industry as a whole, as opposed to just one independent business. So I am open to discussion with someone who may know how to do that thing. But I'm, you know, even though I'm not an official cooperative, I'm happy to cooperate with everyone.
I have a little bit of information on that. We established the Keystone Tree Crops Cooperative in collaboration with the Keystone Development Center. The Keystone Development Center offers technical assistance in developing cooperatives. Peggy Fogarty is the director.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea. That's what I was going to suggest, Josh. If you want to touch base with me offline, I can give you Peggy's contact information, and that's what their expertise is. So she'd be a good person to talk to.
We're all thinking the same way. I just asked Gina to drop it in the chat.
Thank you, it's in there.
Yeah, just so Josh knows, Peggy has developed a Keystone Development Corp and a cooperative and a really, really good methodical approach to cooperatives. So I think that's a great place to start. And I know Andrea has also been working and promoting this approach. So I'm sure she is going to be a good resource there as well. Question from Peter to Josh. Are you working with the Association of American Feed Control Officials for feed approval?
Indirectly, yes. We're so we have a bunch of different fingers out into all of these different projects. We've got a really great team here working on several things. So I am not personally directly connected with those folks, but I mean, it's absolutely critical to get to the next stage of development. I believe that hemp feed and use for poultry has been approved through the efforts of Kreider Farms in Lancaster. And I think everyone's talking about adding that across the board to other feed uses. But the issue is there's quite a bit of tape. There's quite a bit of paperwork that needs to get done, documenting the study, documenting the safety. It's going to take some investment to get it done. We are working on a trial now with one of my partners in Spring Mills, feeding out, I think Andrea mentioned that, feeding out some Angus cows and some bison. And we're working on hopefully having someone from the university help quantify that data that then could turn into kind of the case for approaching that group to get that approved as a feed ingredient. But so no, not me directly. There's only so much Josh and so many hours in the day. So luckily we get a lot done because I have an excellent team of people to help me, but we're not there yet. I'd love to get there quicker.
Thanks. I wanted to sort of throw the same question over to Andrea because I know she's working with a grower who's looking at the use of this for bison feed. Is that right?
Yeah. So the same person Josh is talking about is Herb, who I work with here in Spring Mills in Center County. And, you know, as far as I understand, you're legally not allowed to sell it, but you're allowed to give it away. You're allowed to feed your own animals with it. Yeah, I think that there's tremendous opportunities around, you know, protein, fiber, yeah, we're hopefully going to continue to put in ongoing research, and you know, we put in for some funding with the most recent DCED funding with PDA, to hopefully be able to, you know, run some of these numbers on, you know, with controlled studies on the impacts on livestock.
Great, thank you. Stay tuned, Andrea, because I think there's another question for you. Will the hemp drying truck be available this season?
Yeah, we're hoping to get it online this year. That's the goal. You know, we're realistic optimists, and hopefully we're going to start moving a lot of these products on a larger scale, so that, you know, we can sort of find those bottlenecks to get these products moving. And, you know, in addition to the policy and the equipment processing, you know, I think that there's tremendous opportunities to do on-farm seed drying, and I'm terribly excited to do whatever I can to get the juices flowing and get these products out there as much as we can.
Great, thank you. There was a question about the decortication plant in Phoenixville, and I know quite a few of us were able to get a sneak preview of and look at that plant. Any one of you that has familiarity with it is welcome to maybe share a little bit about what you saw and where you think that is in the landscape.
Yeah, so go ahead, Sara.
Well, it's going. It's in fits and starts, as everything is that just gets started. I will say it's not fully operational yet, and I'm not associated with it other than trying to trying to promote the industry as a whole. I think it's a good first step, and we'll see where it goes.
Sara, I realize maybe some of our listeners may not know what decortication is. I certainly didn't until a little while ago. If you can give us a quick explanation.
I wish my camera was working, because I could show you the difference between what a fiber is and what what the plant is. I had some in my pocket from a visit there just recently. So the decortication process is where the fibers on the outside of the hemp plant are stripped away from the hurd, which is the woody center of the plant. And those two different parts of the plant, the hurd being rather tough and woody, is used for different purposes than the fiber, which of course is long and stringy. The fiber then is further refined to a point where it can be spun into thread, or that is woven for cloth, or used, or in a rougher form can be used for batting or other types of product, textiles. So the hurd at the same time can also be used, and Eric, you just step in here anytime, can be used for hempcrete, depending on how it is refined, or it can be used for animal bedding because it's a highly absorbent material. So it's a very versatile product, the fiber and the hurd.
This is a hemp stalk right here. This is an old CBD one, but same thing. A decortication machine is when the hemp stalk goes through a machine and it cracks it like this all up into pieces. And then what you get is fiber, which could be turned into a rope or clothing or something more exciting, like a pair of baggy hemp pants. But the inside, these are what you see on this, like the woody core. That part is what we use mixed with lime, and that is what we use as insulation. So we're working on, hey, there you go. There you go. That's Josh. Hop in. That's better.
So this front section here is hemp hurd. This is actually material I got from Cameron. This is imported from France. That is the exact product and the quality that he uses for the hempcrete product. And then the outside is some bass fiber that was, I think, collected from a organization down south. Was not brought in from France, although I do have a bale of French long fiber here in the shop, mainly for just discussion purposes. Oh, actually, I think I sent that away to get, yeah, that's being mechanically pulped into paper pulp, actually. So no, I don't have that here. But so yeah, those couple of things are the leftover parts of after decortication takes place. And there also is a constituent of bark that doesn't really have a value, but that needs to be separated from these two products in order to get these ready to go into industrial uses.
In addition to the hempcrete and the construction experts that we had when we visited Biophil's Fiber, the decortication facility, we also brought a bunch of textile people along, including people from Tuscarora Mills and a handful of high-end textile manufacturers, and they were really happy with the product. So far, the Biophil's Fiber facility is a pilot proof of concept to construct a large scale facility. That's my understanding, but so far there seem to be both the hempcrete people and the fiber textile people were really excited about what's going on there.
Thank you all. We actually got a question on this subject from Gary, and is anyone working on hempcrete or insulation? And I think we've answered that pretty well. I would like to take that a step further and just see if there are any other applications that you guys want to bring up in terms of sort of cutting edge uses of industrial hemp, things that you see growing in the future. And again, kind of getting back to our original thesis, are there exciting things on the horizon that could grow even faster if we had perhaps fewer obstacles or more infrastructure in place. I know that's a really broad question, and I throw it out there to any of you who would like to give your spin on that.
I'll take a first crack at it, Sarah. So, I mean, therein lies the challenge, is that basically, although hemp has been around for a couple of thousand years, here in the United States, you know, during the Second World War, they were making parachutes from it and clothing and all kinds of different materials. And then, you know, the politicians got in the way. And for 80 years, we've been dealing with it being off the market. Now we're trying to overcome that inertia. So, you know, what we have talked about is with the Hemp Steering Committee specifically is what is the low hanging fruit? What are the areas that we can concentrate on initially? Because there are so many ancillary benefits that can come, you know, the bioplastics, the microfibers, you know, hemp is great as a fiber because it doesn't, you can't grow, mold doesn't grow on it, right? Which is why they used to make sails out of it in the 17th and 18th century. So there's so many applications, not to mention, we haven't even talked about the opportunity for carbon sequestration and all those climate change initiatives that are coming down the pike, and where, you know, hemp, 1 acre of hemp, from my understanding, captures as much carbon as 30 acres of trees. So it's all that kinds of information that we have to try and get out into the system, but you don't want people's eyes to glaze over. So, you know, again, there's thousands of products that can be created from this. Right now, the concentration seems to be on the construction materials and ultimately, you know, sort of the basic textiles. And then further down the line, the micro textiles and the microfibers for high-end wicking material and things of that nature. So it's all out there. And the challenge is keeping 1,000 balls in the air at the same time and trying to have none drop and arrive at some places at the same time. So it's exciting, but absolutely challenging.
Thank you. Any other thoughts?
I'm terribly excited about 3D printing hemp filament. You know, being able to do 3D printing with Pennsylvania grown hemp kind of blows my mind. Injection molding with hemp materials, the bioplastics, especially with mycelium, hemp wood, and you know, the potential for carbon negative, hyperlocal carbon offset markets.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, at All Together now, we've been working on trying to, you know, unite the rural and urban markets with hemp. So currently working on a hemp milk project, which can be, you know, grown here on my farm and bottled and distributed out of Philadelphia. I have a bunch of cafes and stuff right now that are already ready to roll once we get the product pasteurized and get our nutritional information. So that's something that is exciting for us because, like Phil was saying, low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit is the grain. Grain is easy. We have the infrastructure. Let's take the grain, make a product, get it out there, tell everybody, look, hemp is the real deal. This is made from hemp milk. It's Pennsylvania. It's organic. It's good for you. Get more farmers, you know, involved and just start developing the industry from the ground up is what we need. But as far as hemp building is concerned, I put in a comment in there for Cameron McIntosh is running a Marichamp, which is a hempcrete company, one of the best out there right now and doing a great job. He built quite a bit of my house and a cottage on my property. So we'll be doing more workshops with hempcreteweek.com. Or on Hempcrete Week. You can check that out on hempcreteweek.com. I'll put that in there too. So if anybody's interested in building with hemp this year at the farm, we'll have another week-long event for everyone.
Thank you. We have a comment that we should be making Hershey bars with hemp. Although we are talking in part about marketing as well. So I think that's entirely appropriate. I wanted to ask a question to the group about cover crops. We've talked a little bit about how hemp is an excellent sequesterer of carbon. I'm sure some of you have experience using hemp as a cover crop. Are there any things we should know, you would like to share, trial and error?
I used hemp as a cover in a field that I wasn't going to plant. It was great. The seed's expensive, but besides that, the turkeys loved it, and they're definitely waiting for me to get it back in that field. It was pretty awesome. They rototilled and just with my 4 acres of hemp, probably grew my turkey flock, my wild turkey flock considerably. So
cool.
I guess
go ahead.
I just want to add to that's kind of the pros and cons of growing hemp, is that especially in the areas of CBD, if the grain hemp or if the CBD hemp is pollinated and the seeds shed, we did see germinating seeds last January. And in our own field where we did have some grain and fiber hemp that was pollinated, the seed was germinating in November. I haven't checked the field lately. We've had some cows grazing in there, but it is possible that we have a terribly noxious weed on our hand as well. So I think it's important to understand kind of the cultivation of this plant. It is called weed for a reason, and it'll grow everywhere. So I think we have to maintain a very tight control on where it's grown and how we care for it. That would be my caution when it comes to seeds and letting things go to seed and coming up again.
Thank you. Anyone else on this subject?
Yeah, I was gonna say, we integrate sunflowers with site prep with no spray systems. We've had a lot of success with sunflowers, really taking control of a lot of the weed problems, weed suppression. So I've heard people talking about sunflower, hemp, canola rotation with cover crops. And they're all oil products too. So, you can have your cover crop and drink it too.
Cool, thank you. We have another question from the Q&A from Karen. As I understand, Jefferson University is working on a biodegradable plastic. What is the current status of that research? Does anyone in this crew know?
Sarah, I can't give anything specific other than it is ongoing. And in addition to the biodegradable plastic for bottles, for example, they're also talking about that as a textile. So that at some point, as many of us know in the camping industry, that we're finding plastic residuals in fish in the Yellowstone River. And that's all because of, what's in the atmosphere, but also people leaving behind petroleum-based plastics when they go camping. So that'll be a real game changer at some point in the future when that kind of material is available for camping gear and outdoor equipment and stuff like that. So research is ongoing on both of those at Jefferson.
I want to add to, there's an exceptional, brilliant innovator, William Padilla Brown, in South Central Pennsylvania, who's been doing mushroom genetic mapping, and he's been doing a lot of innovative hemp mycelium biocomposite bioplastic demonstrations. And if you're on Instagram, you got to follow him. It's amazing everything he's going through.
Thank you.
Sarah, I just wanted, I think I just read on the topic of cover crops and this concept of a living mulch beneath the hemp. For grain and fiber hemp, it's when you plant it so tight, it's pretty tough to grow a cover crop underneath it. It'll pretty much shade everything out. On the other hand, the concept of cover crops, because we don't have any herbicides, the concept of cover crops as far as the allelopathic effect that they have on weed seeds and types of crops that actually do that, as well as promote the hemp, that's something that we're working on at King's Agriseeds. So that's pre hemp. It would be the forecrop to the hemp, or something that you would plant in the fall. Or we are also planting some now. We just planted this past Monday ahead of the rain, in order to determine which species, which mixtures actually do double duty. They are actually multiple duty. They suppress the weeds, promote the hemp, and promote really good soil health. So that's kind of perhaps a richer look at a cover crop scenario.
Great, thank you. So we're almost out of time. We have a provocative comment just come in, which I think I'm going to throw out there because I think it's a really interesting question. Hopefully we'll make it to 1 o'clock without going wildly over. But the question is there any concern out there about hemp production becoming sort of a monoculture, big agribusiness model with a lot of intensive inputs? Or are there ways to guard against, having it not be really additive to sustainable agriculture? How do we ensure that it's really a regenerative practice? And any of you are brave enough to answer that, would be great.
I don't know how you can ensure it. You can lead by example. I think that most of us are organic farmers here. I know I am, and moving towards regenerative organic certification. If you can do it and you can do it cheaply, that's usually a good enough reason to get farmers to jump on board. The ethics don't always lead. So we can convince people to do it because it's cheaper and better. That just goes into more education, and Pasa and more organizations just need to get involved and make it known that this is possible and there's a better way.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, so I'm a non-GMO farmer. I'm not an organic farmer. We are an organically certified processing facility here, but the farming we do, we unfortunately went the wrong direction, had some guidance early on, and kind of went more towards, typical industrial agriculture to start. But I guess from my perspective, we're kind of a weird farmer to begin with. We don't grow any of those Roundup Ready genetics or corn and bean rotation. We're always looking for added value type of crops. But I think what it really comes down to is you have to follow the money, so until hemp reaches a point where it is lucrative enough for people to pay attention to, we have to be careful, have to toggle that in with these value-added markets to where it is a little bit harder to grow than your typical glyphosate tolerant genetics that are out there for corn and beans. So it's, I don't know, it's sort of an interesting situation. So I think you just have to follow the money. I think we're safe for a few years before we're going to start to see genetically modified hemp genetics and things of that nature, as long as we're careful about it.
Great. Thank you. Well, I want to respect everyone's time. So I want to, first of all, thank our panelists. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for joining us. This was really helpful discussion. I want to plug 2 upcoming listening sessions really quickly. On April 30th, we'll have a continuing discussion of small meat processing. What are the obstacles and solutions? And on May 28th, Josh, you might want to check into this one. We have a discussion with Peggy Doherty of the Keystone Development Center on cooperatives and how they are working and how they can be expanded. So thank you once again for joining us. Have a great weekend. Thanks, everybody.